Alrighty, so we're almost finished with all of the bodywork on this truck here. In this 25-minute segment here, we're going to be doing some straight sanding, which you see me doing right here, using a 80 grit paper. Now, remember I told you this door is very flimsy. It's a very flimsy metal, so very, very tricky door to work on. That's why we're pushing very lightly. I'm hardly pushing at all. Because you don't want to warp the panel as you're sanding. If you're working on older classics with thicker metal and creases in the door lines that make it even sturdier, then you're not going to have an issue. But this was a very tricky panel to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and also do a guide coat on here so you can see the low spots a little easier. I could see them here. I mean, I'm pretty sure you could see them as well, those low areas. But if you're a beginner especially, you're going to want to use a guide coat so you can see what you're working with, what you're cutting, what you're not cutting. All right, so we're going to be doing some guide coat. I'm going to come in and out with audio in this series as well to give you some pointers. Feel free to skip forward if you kind of want to look at other sections of this. But we're pretty much getting everything ready for primer. And then it's going to start progressing to painting very shortly. So I'll see you in the rest of the clips. So as you can see how wavy the panel can get, you know, how flimsy it is. But I'm just taking my time, making long strokes here, sanding the panel little by little, and just knocking off the high edges. So just take your time when doing this. The goal is to get everything white, right, to eliminate the dark low spots. I think we're going to have to give this thing one more coat for final prep. Keep going. So we're doing this bottom panel here, just giving it a quick guide coat. Then we're going to cut it with the straight sander. If you don't have a straight sander, you could do all of this by hand and block. I would recommend a 12-inch flat block if you can get your hands on one, just to get it straight here. So we're going to just speed up the process in just a bit because this can be a little time consuming. The section, you could be on it for a good 5 minutes or so cutting. So let's go ahead and speed up the process here and get back to you. I always like to kind of finish off with hand blocking because you could really feel the panel and work your tricks around each little section better than a machine can do. All right, so as we see here, we have one little low spot right there, kind of in the center toward the left, and that's pretty much it. So we're gonna mix some more putty. We're gonna fill that. You could just fill it just as is, and then we're gonna flatten it out, and then pretty much ready for primer in that section. So now we know we have to fill this. Feels okay. This very lightly, this could probably just be blocked out, hand sanded out. You won't even notice it. I would actually use a DA up in here, very, very fine. So I'm not going to really worry about that too much. Maybe I'll put a skin on it as I cover in here, okay? Now if you see something like this, all you have to do is blow it out really well. Scuff the area a little bit. Okay, and you could lay another coat of filler right on top of that. No big deal. So let's go ahead and just do, you know what? You know what I'll do with this little baby here? I'll put some guide coat on it. It's really unnecessary to do it, but I just wanted to give you guys how it looks, how a guide coat's supposed to be, okay? Don't breathe this, Maya Lou. So we let this dry. So a guide coat is supposed to show you your high and low spots. So that's what you do. I like to use flat black if I use it. Usually I just use a primer. I won't even use guide coat. I use primer. And honestly, I don't even use a guide coat because I know, but because I'm teaching you guys, I want you to be able to see the low areas. That's why I'm using a guide coat here.
Danny G said yes.
Yeah.
Everything was just so bright. Earlier they couldn't see anything. It was just like all white.
Oh yeah, so what'd you do?
I didn't do anything.
Is it okay?
It was just like all sun earlier. Right now it is all sun. I think we gotta be a little bit more this way. Oh, that's better. That's better. Oh, one of them said hello. Harry Robertson said, are there any better body filler within some same price range of something?
Well, I'm using the Evercoat Z-Grip, and I got it on sale for I think 25 bucks. Usually it's like 45 to 50. I think it's pretty good. Where's my hammer?
Your hammer?
I got it. So we have a little high spot here, as we can see. When we pulled it out, we just pulled it out a little too much. So there's metal here, little high spot. So what I do in this case is just tap it down lightly. Okay, if you can't tap it like this and hit it, what I do is I use a pin style hammer like this. I put it on where it's too high, and then I tap it, just to give you an idea. Very little, okay? And then we just give it a little coat. Here too.
He said, can you give us a guide coat on Bondo too?
That's it. Okay, now we're just gonna fill this
Danny
one
said
coat,
yes,
and we
hello.
should be done.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did a guide coat on the bottom here. This just needs to be filled.
Stop. We're gonna make it turquoise and white. Wow, we have to fill it one exhibit fan. Pearl white, Maya? It's actually gonna, yes. That, turquoise and white.
Is the dust getting on you?
No.
Let me move that fan. Okay, so an area like this we want to feather in, right?
My birthday tomorrow. I think Metallic to lay even throughout the whole paint job.
Don't understand it.
I don't know. Okay, so he says, is there any trick to spray Metallics to lay, any trick to spray Metallics to lay even through the whole paint job?
Metallics.
Metallics. Okay, my mistake. LOL, she's cool. Thank you. Stay with me, Maya.
Okay, I will answer that later. I'm just trying to get this body work done here.
Yes. One of them said yes.
See, with blocking it with the guide coat, you can see the flat line, you see?
Hey, Rocky. There's Rocky over there. I know it's loud. Rocky has come to join us. Brooklyn in the house. Oh, Brooklyn? I know Brooklyn. My name is Mia, and my daddy rocks. I just read out loud for some reason. That's good.
This got a feather right in here.
Right there. Awesome live show, Tony. Get back to work in the morning to catch you later.
See you guys.
Matt Cushion. He's
So I have a 320 grit on my DA here, and all we're doing is sanding the body panels. So if we get overspray with our primer, it's going to stick to something, right? So we're just sanding the whole car down, the whole truck down with a dry sand 320 grit around our bodywork areas, just doing the doors and everything. So once we start laying our primer, we're basically have something to stick to, right? So anywhere from 280 to 320 is what I recommend. If you're putting a good 2K primer over it, it'll fill everything and you won't have any issues. All right, so we're going to continue sanding all around the truck now, get everything ready for primer. Then I'm going to take it outside and I'm going to hit the door jambs by water sanding. And there's a misconception out there saying that you can't wet Bondo, it's going to give you a problem. Body filler, you can wet it at this stage, it's not going to hurt it. Just make sure it's dry before you continue with your primer. All right, so I wouldn't recommend priming it that day. If you're going to be priming it the next day, then no problem, right? And the reason why I like wet sanding as opposed to dry sanding is I think it just cuts cleaner and it's less messier, right? Because you're not getting dust all over the place and you could work it with your hands in tight areas. That's why I just like wet sanding door jambs, because you really don't have a lot of body work. The main point is just to scuff the paint, so your new fresh paint has something to stick to, right? And if we do get a little bit of overspray from our primer through our little door seams there, it has something to stick to, right? And you could just resand that one more shot before you put your base coat on it. So that's what we're going to be doing in the rest of this video, going over the truck, sanding all around our bodywork areas with our 280 to 320 grit. Here I'm just kind of taking off some heavy scratches on the bed here. And then we're going to mask up and we're going to prime. So we're almost there. So here we are water sanding our door jambs with 400 grit paper. Perfect paper to do door jambs with when you're water sanding. I'm also going to go ahead and remove our weather stripping here. And they come out pretty easily. If you can see the way I do it, you just pull up and then pull down. It's basically like a T strap there, and then those little moldings come out pretty easily there. The clips come out pretty easily, and then you just actually poke them back into the rubber and then you snap them back in. In fact, I may have some videos actually doing that further in the process. So I think you got the idea of water sanding door jambs. I don't think I have to put 30 minutes of this in here for you. But just an overall, visual of how it's done. Just sand it all, go around the stickers, go around your little door latches there. Just the main thing is just to scuff everything down and get it flat looking, right? You want to take the gloss off. And primer is really not necessary, especially if you're spraying the same color. Even over white, you don't have to prime because any color will go over it nicely. If you're spraying a black or a green or whatever, you're just going to go over it. Unless you're doing a custom color change and you want a dark base below your base color, you could shoot a black base over the whole thing and then spray a green over it or a blue over it to give it a darker finish. But this whole top of the cab is going to be sprayed white again, so it's not an issue. I could just scuff it with 400 grit, wet sand, and it'll actually be ready for a new fresh base coat. All right, so the main thing is cleaning everything, taking the grease off and making sure it's nice and clean so you don't have any chemical reactions. All right, so the next video we're going to be getting into literally prepping it, masking it off, and priming the whole truck and all the bodywork areas. So I'll see you in the next videos. Thanks for watching. Bye.